Welcome back to This Week in Focus. Monday this week saw teachers in government-aided schools lay down their tools, demanding a 10% salary increment. In most schools, the teachers did not show up, leaving students stranded as the new school term opened. Our reporter visited several schools and filed this report.
At Buganda Road Primary School, the pupils turned up in big numbers as the school opened for the second term. But the teachers in this school made no show as they laid down their tools, protesting against government's failure to meet the 10% salary increment. It's only the deputy head teacher who turned up and had a rough time to manage the pupils.
To assure us that the money is going to be paid. And the colleagues, those who are in the classroom, my question is, maybe for them, for you have been paid. But for us, and the majority of the people I represent, have not seen that money.
At Bati Valley Primary School, none of the teachers turned up as the new term opened. Pupils were all left to fend for themselves, and some opted to play it off.
They want their salary.
At Chitante Hill School, the turn-up was high, but business was slow as there were no teachers. Here, students ganged up, pondering on the next move as the deputy head teacher, together with the support staff, jogged around to keep order in the school.
So we are here, others are still doing their exams. They don't want us to shout for them.
At City High School, one could hardly tell whether the school had opened up for the new term or not, and at Kololo High School, business was slow. The situation was not different in various parts of the country as the teachers stood firm to their demands.
Strike is on in Tororo and covering both government-aided primary schools and government secondary schools. So we are on until when government says yes.
In full swing to start the term, and we started the assembly. We told them what is going on. The teachers are not around, they reported, and they just came to sign and went away.
They have realized that the teachers are not happy. The learners are not happy when the teachers are not happy. They have now taken care of their children. The schools are closed in Kawale district, Kawale municipality, be it Kisoro, Ntunga, Morukunjiri, the whole of southwestern region.
Schools are closed, the children have gone home, and nobody should be deceived by the newspaper article that some teachers are opposing the union resolution.
The teachers have vowed to continue with their strike until government adheres to their demands. Stella Nabakoza, WBS TV, Kampala.
However, in spite of this, government, in a point-blank statement, assured teachers that they have failed to give them the promised 10% increment to their salaries. Speaking to the teachers, Second Deputy Prime Minister Henry Kajura said that government does not have enough money. With this statement, teachers vowed to continue with their sit-down strike till government takes their 10% salary increment under consideration.
After an indoor closed meeting with the leaders of the teachers' union, government has maintained its position not to make any increase to the teachers' salaries. According to the Second Deputy Premier, Henry Muganwa Kajura, says the government does not have enough money.
It was not possible to reach an acceptable solution, and this matter is going to be referred to further authorities, and then the final position will be known.
Government doesn't have the money will be paid to the teachers. That increment of 10% will be paid to the teachers in the financial year 2016-2017.
Now, the teachers are saying they are not going to class until government changes its position and increase their salary.
We have not agreed whatsoever with the ministers that have attended this meeting. You can't push the donkey, you can take the donkey to the well, but you need to force it to drink water. And I'm telling you the consequences, the impact of the education now, the results from this may be felt sometime to come.
Whereas this is their position, the teachers had even reached a point of negotiating for a win-win situation, demanding at least 5% increment. But even with this bargaining power, government still maintained its position.
We told them, if they cannot give us the money now, let them consider the inflation. Give us the 5% to go back to class. Maybe next financial year they give us 10%, because this was the commitment by the state. They're saying they're not in a position to do that.
So we've decided to remain as we are. We are not going to start teaching until government gets where to get at least 5% of what we agreed upon.
Now they want to meet President Museveni, since his ministers seem not to have the powers to decide their fate.
Tusigaddeyo tukyali mu nsiko, tukyali mu kwekalakaasa okutuusa nga waliwo ekikoleddwa era tulowooza nti mukulembeze wa ggwanga yekka kati gwe tusobola okwogera naye.
It's now 3 days since the second education term began, but teachers are still sticking to their guns. During this year's Labor Day celebrations in Kisoro, Museveni, the chief worker, said he can't think of the civil servants' salaries increments before finishing work on infrastructure like good roads and electricity.
Elsewhere, Chief Judge Justice Asaph Ntenje Ruhinda, together with Lady Justice Linda Mugisha, received vehicles that will facilitate their movement to all factories and industries in the country to handle the different cases of workers. The Permanent Secretary to the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, Pius Bigirimana, handed over the vehicles to the judges, saying there are over 1,000 cases waiting and the vehicles will facilitate them to address the challenges of workers. Stephen Mwiri reported.
Receiving the vehicles, the Chief Judge Justice Asaph Ntenje Ruhinda and the Lady Justice Linda Mugisha expressed gratitude for the offer, saying this has saved them from using other judges' vehicles and this will help them reach the up-country areas where cases of workers are rampant.
I certainly help me in doing this work of the industrial court, because it might necessitate the state has to move to up-country and the other stations to resolve these disputes, for as long as the industrial court is facilitated as much as possible.
This vehicle is definitely going to enhance my performance as a judge. I have been having trouble with transport, but I believe this is the beginning, and I'll be able to do my work better. I look forward to better things for the court so that we can adjudicate and ensure that there is labour justice for all.
The Permanent Secretary, Minister of Gender, Labour and Social Development, Pius Bigirimana, says these had spent over 10 years without vehicles which had affected their justice activities, and now this will indeed help them to address the many cases of workers awaiting countrywide.
Since the judges were appointed, they have had no official transport. We have been actually helping them using all the vehicles that were here. But I'm happy to inform the public that the judges now have got new vehicles.
The brand new vehicles cost over 150 million Uganda shillings. At the same time, Plan Uganda has donated 6 motorcycles to the Ministry of Gender to help in accessing areas that are greatly affected by domestic violence. Plan Uganda says domestic violence in Uganda has affected many children, especially in the rural areas. Pius Bigirimana, the Permanent Secretary Gender, received the Yamaha motorcycles.
This is meant to help our offices. We have established child line, toll-free, where if you see any child abuse, if you see any child mistreatment, you are supposed to report to us, and you report to us using that toll-free line so that we can come in.
But right now we're trying to ensure that all the things that will make the districts to really follow up and support children when it comes to referral, when child abuse and violence happen. That's why the reason of the motorcycles is many issues in Uganda affecting children, but violence and abuse is probably the one that is coming as a prominent one. There are children that are exposed to violence and abuse every day, sometimes in a school, sometimes in their homes with their families.
The motorcycles, worth 90 million shillings, are made to strengthen the management of child abuse cases reported through a toll-free line, 116. These motorcycles will benefit the 6 districts of Alebutong, Lira, Luero, Kamuli, Tororo, and Chireka in Kampala. Stephen Mwiri, WBS News.
In more stories taking center stage this week, a newly released health report by the Ministry of Health revealed that government health facilities in rural areas are incapacitated with poor quality drugs, some areas no drugs, and this has resulted into loss of lives. According to this report, maternal medicine tops the list of scarce drugs, which has partly contributed to the high maternal mortality rates. Stella Nabakoza reported.
A latest survey conducted by the Ministry of Health on the availability of life-saving drugs in government facilities indicates that most health centers, especially in rural areas, lack basic supplies for essential life-saving drugs. It is reported that some health centers take up to 6 months without drugs, and it is worse in Karamoja region, where several government facilities fail to get supplies of maternal medicines and mama kits, topping the list of the scarce commodities in these centers.
The supplies are not up to the mark where we would have wanted them to be. And various reasons have been given. First and foremost, the amount of commodities required could be inadequate in terms of numbers because of the amount of resources, amount of money, amount of finances available to procure them.
Centers. The report is pinning national medical stores for the delays in the supplies.
Do they have a system if they arrive in the national medical stores? Is there a good transport mechanism to make sure that they actually reach the lowest level? Those are also issues which we have to improve on. The logistics, the estimations, the distribution.
In some health centers, practitioners lack the basic knowledge to administer certain drugs, especially contraceptives, and the ministry calls for retraining of the medics.
No client demand. This one was made affecting the private sector, where some of them, I think they don't offer these maternal and child services, especially referring to reproductive health. Then there was no trained staff to provide these medicines.
The ministry is also recommending for mass sensitization of the public to know their basic health rights and always demand for their rights from health workers. Stella Nabakoza, WBS TV, Kampala.
It is projected that the Kampala-Entebbe Expressway project will delay for 2 more years, later than the projected time of completion that was early 2017. While progress on some sections of the road has reached 48%, due to land acquisition problems, implementation of work in other areas has not yet even started. As such, while touring this multi-billion project, the Executive Director, Uganda National Roads Authority, Allen Kajina, was prompted to establish a desk to resolve the issue of compensation once and for all, so as to have the construction proceed as earlier planned.
These are some of the sections of Kampala-Entebbe Expressway nearing completion. However, land acquisition is still a major hindrance to this multi-billion project, with some of the sections held at a standstill. A case in point is this rocky section at Katale that remains fenced off by the landowner, who has since asked over 40 billion shillings as compensation before he can allow access to his land. On her tour to establish the progress of the project, the Executive Director, Uganda National Roads Authority, Allen Kajina, found out that unresolved land issues are to cost time and money to the project. as investigation to avoid these huge compensation claims for an alternative route have also landed on fish ponds and graves that have to be relocated before the project can start.
We had more or less completed the land acquisition until we came to that rock. We saw the rock where we stopped, and now we're going to have to see what do we need to do, because we cannot continue waiting for negotiations.
Away from citizen complaints, it is also worth noting that due to access of the site at some of these sections, the contractor China Communication Construction Company Limited has also submitted claims amounting to 150 million shillings as delay fines, and also requested 2 years extension of time to hand over the project.
I mean, these delays have already cost us, and we are now in negotiations with the contractor who's saying you must compensate me for the time lost.
Now, this has prompted the National Roads Authority Executive Director, Allen Kajina, to establish a help desk to try and resolve the pending cases of compensation.
Streamlining of compensation. The compensation process must be streamlined.
This is to cut down on the estimated compensation increment of the original 100 billion shillings and relocation of utilities that was projected at only 4 billion shillings. The total cost of this 51.4 kilometer project was estimated initially at over 476 billion shillings, with the Exim Bank of China contributing about 73% of this amount and the remaining percentage by government of Uganda. Paul Matovu, WBS News, Entebbe Express Highway.
This is Week in Focus on WBS TV. Do stay with us. So many more stories still to come.